Senator Durbin.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley. This committee has oversight responsibility over the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Department of Homeland Security. We have a constitutional duty to hold these agencies accountable with public hearings. By this date in my first year as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, we had already held 2 major oversight hearings with Biden administration agency heads, including one with the FBI Director Wray on domestic terrorism threats. So far this year, the Republican majority on this committee has not held a single oversight hearing, despite numerous critical challenges facing the nation that are under our jurisdiction. In the last week alone, several events have demanded this committee's immediate attention. The horrific assassination in Minnesota, the treatment of our colleague Senator Padilla by federal agents in Los Angeles, and President Trump's unprecedented deployment of the U.S. military in Los Angeles. We should hear without delay from Attorney General Bondi and FBI Director Patel about what they are doing to address the unacceptable political violence in our country, including threats to Article III judges and justices, as well as members of Congress.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm American Interest, your resident political analyst, here to help you cut through the noise, look at the facts, and draw your own conclusions. Today, we're breaking down a recent Senate Judiciary Committee hearing where Senator Dick Durbin gave a blistering opening statement targeting both the Republican majority and President Trump. If you haven't seen the full video, it's worth watching. But in this breakdown, I'm going to walk you through the major points, react as a neutral observer, and explore what's really at stake here for both parties and the country at large. Let's dive in. Senator Durbin opened by criticizing the Republican majority for failing to hold any oversight hearings this year. That's unusual, given the Judiciary Committee's role in monitoring the Department of Justice, the FBI, and Homeland Security.
And we need to hear from the Homeland Security Secretary Noem about the treatment of our colleague, Senator Padilla, and this administration's mass deportation campaign against immigrants. But instead of exercising this constitutional oversight duty, my Republican colleagues are holding this hearing. Apparently, armchair diagnosing former President Biden is more important than the issues of grave concern which I have mentioned. To take a few examples of the issues this committee should be addressing, the Trump administration has removed dozens of senior career prosecutors and FBI officials with decades of national security expertise, leaving our nation more vulnerable to terrorism and other national security threats. This should be explained to this committee. The Justice Department has diverted hundreds of law enforcement agents away from combating cartels, drug trafficking, and gun violence to participate in President Trump's mass deportation campaign. This should be addressed in an open hearing of this committee. The Justice Department is also turning a blind eye to corruption. The administration has gutted the Department of Justice's Public Integrity Session, which oversees political corruption, just as the president's shameful crypto scheme unfolds. And the administration has removed Department of Justice's career ethics officials and shut down the office charged with investigating misconduct by DOJ attorneys. With these internal checks gone and this committee asleep at the wheel, it's no surprise that Attorney General Bondi signed off on President Trump to accept Qatar's gift of a $400 million luxury airliner, despite the fact that the Attorney General was previously a registered foreign agent for the Qatari government. We are still waiting for her official finding on this gift transfer. And it's no surprise that Department of Justice official Emil Bove tried to strike a corrupt bargain with New York Mayor Eric Adams, dropping public corruption charges in exchange for the mayor's cooperation with Trump agenda mass deportations. When it comes to these historic, compelling issues, the GOP majority tells America to move along. Nothing to see here. Let's revisit this administration of a previous president in this hearing. Let's revisit a 20-year-old precedent on the use of an auto pen. And I know my Republican colleagues are eager to discuss President Biden's pardons. But why are they ignoring the actual pardon crisis that's taking place right now? President Trump's pay-to-play scheme. Last month, President Trump pardoned Paul Walzak, who pleaded guilty in 2024 to withholding over $7 million of taxes from his employees' paychecks and failing to pay them to the Internal Revenue Service. What warranted Mr. Walzak's swift pardon by President Trump? His pardon application explicitly cited millions of dollars his mother raised for President Trump's campaigns and other efforts to support the president. But that was not enough. It was 3 weeks after Mr. Walzak's mother attended a $1 million a person Trump fundraiser in April of this year that Mr. Walzak was miraculously receiving his pardon. And now he no longer must pay $4.4 million to the taxpayers of this country. That's one example of the many pardons granted to President Trump's wealthy donors and political supporters. Of course, these pay-to-play pardons are in addition to more than 1,500 January 6 rioters who received blanket pardon from President Trump, including 169 who violently assaulted law enforcement officials. And we're going to make a question of cognitive ability. I think we should consider what happened in Alberta, Canada, just this week, where President Trump was at a press conference with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and said the following: "You all know the great PM of the UK, and we just signed a document." President Trump continued, "We just signed it so we have our trade agreement with the EU. Britain has not been a party to the EU for 5 years, but President Trump made a statement which clearly was wrong." Now I'd like you to see a short video that includes some other examples of cognitive ability.
Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. The windmills are driving the whales crazy, obviously. I have concepts of a plan. They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the... I know about magnets is this. Give me a glass of water. Let me drop it on the magnets. That's the end of the magnet. The kidney has a very special place in the heart. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? This is a tough hurricane, one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. When you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy. They had great arms, but they ran out. It's called sports. It's called baseball in particular. Can't understand a word he's saying. Did you just see Maduro, Venezuela? It's unbelievable. Well, I don't know about it. I mean, obviously, I'm not involved.
He wants to know why the proclamation was signed in the dark.
I don't know when it was signed because I didn't sign it. Other people handled it.
Do any of these statements raise a question of cognitive ability? You be the judge. If my colleagues are truly interested in issues of presidential succession and disability under the 25th Amendment, I would suggest they embark on this constitutional journey with a proposed amendment, not today's political adventure. I yield.
Good morning.
Now, whether you're left or right-leaning, it's a fact that oversight is a key function of Congress. It's how the legislative branch holds the executive accountable. Historically, both parties have used oversight when politically convenient and ignored it when inconvenient. So, Durbin's critique is not new, but it raises a fair point. If the committee isn't doing its job, who is? He compared it to his own chairmanship, where multiple hearings had already been held by this point in the year. That's a clear appeal to precedent. But here's a more balanced perspective. Congress often swings between overreach and negligence when it comes to oversight, depending on which party controls the White House. In this case, the Biden administration is out, and Trump is back, so yes, expect some political theater. But that doesn't mean the underlying concerns don't deserve attention. Durbin outlined several urgent issues he believes the committee is ignoring. He cited the assassination in Minnesota, alleged mistreatment of Senator Padilla, and domestic political violence, calling for hearings with Attorney General Bondi and FBI Director Patel. Whether or not you agree with Durbin's framing, the issues themselves are serious. Anytime federal agents are accused of misconduct or political violence escalates, it's reasonable to expect a congressional response. But let's be real, part of this is optics. By rattling off a long list of grievances and tying them to lack of oversight, Durbin sets the stage to question the legitimacy of the Republican committee agenda. Here's where it gets more contentious. Durbin accuses the Trump administration of removing experienced DOJ officials, redirecting agents away from violent crime units, gutting public integrity and ethics offices, turning a blind eye to corruption, particularly involving Qatar. These are serious allegations. Some of them are documented, such as a turnover in DOJ leadership during Trump's prior term. But other claims, like a DOJ official offering corrupt deals, need to be backed by hard evidence, not just rhetoric. What's crucial here is transparency. If these actions occurred, then oversight is not just warranted, it's essential. But it's also true that political opponents have incentive to amplify accusations. That's why open hearings, not closed-door partisan commentary, are so important. Durbin next takes aim at President Trump's pardon record, focusing on Paul Walzak, a donor's son pardoned shortly after a high-dollar fundraiser. The implication is clear: money bought clemency. Let's talk facts. Presidential pardon power is incredibly broad. Both Democratic and Republican presidents have pardoned controversial figures. And yes, some were donors or political allies. That's not new. But what makes these Trump-era pardons unique is the volume and pattern, especially around January 6 participants and financial supporters. If there's a credible case that pardons were being sold, that is a legitimate constitutional and legal concern. But proving that requires more than circumstantial timelines. That said, if Congress wants to investigate this, again, that's what oversight is for. One of the more dramatic parts of Durbin's remarks was when he addressed the Republican focus on President Biden's cognitive health, only to flip the mirror and highlight Trump's own gaffes. He recited several well-known Trump soundbites, from windmills driving whales crazy to confusing the UK and EU, to argue that if we're going to raise questions about cognitive fitness, we need to be consistent. And honestly, that's a fair point. Both parties have weaponized the 25th Amendment narrative at different times. If cognitive fitness is truly a concern for presidential leadership, then we need an objective standard, not just whichever standard suits the moment. Right now, the public is left in the middle, watching two aging politicians with high-stakes responsibilities and a Congress that seems more interested in scoring points than passing reforms. So where does that leave us? Oversight needs to happen consistently, and regardless of which party is in charge. Allegations of corruption, abuse of power, and improper pardons must be investigated, not just politicized. And if we're going to talk about presidential fitness, whether Biden or Trump, we need to do it based on facts and policy, not edited videos or rhetorical gotchas. Durbin's speech was fiery and partisan, yes, but it raised issues that the American public deserves answers on. The question now is whether the Judiciary Committee on either side will step up and do its job. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Was Durbin making a fair point or just playing politics? And do you think congressional oversight is broken or functioning as designed? If you found this analysis helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and stay tuned for more breakdowns of U.S. politics without the spin. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep questioning everything.